There you go.
She did. I think she did.
All right, good, Carl and Nikki. All right, well, I'm calling to order the July 12th meeting of the Woodstock Village Board of Trustees at 6:32 p.m. And first order of business is citizens' comments. Any comments from citizens? Yes, Beth Finlayson.
I'm very sorry. I was kind of off last week and I didn't get our application in for the second sidewalk sale. And I'm hoping that we can kind of provisionally approve it and then I'll have it in so that by the next, so we can advertise it, but we can have it in.
Can you tell us the dates?
Yes, I will. That's why I have my phone. August 19th and 20th.
Is that a Friday and Saturday?
Yes, it is. 9 to
And so nothing different than
nothing,
we've done in the past.
nothing different. I apologize.
Well, I would make a motion that we accept pending the arrival of the permit requirements, sidewalk sale at the dates of August 19th and 20th in Woodstock this year. Is there
I second.
second?
Is there any
Any
detail what
discussion?
that, yeah, just what is it exactly? Everybody can put something out on the sidewalk in the whole town, and it's for a day, it's for the whole weekend,
days.
2 days.
Friday and Saturday until about 6 p.m.
Okay,
And they have to make sure that you can
walk by,
navigate
yeah,
the sidewalk.
okay, good, yeah, sorry, thank you, just make sure I knew what it was.
Okay, so given that pending everything coming in, any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So no opposed. Motion carries. There you go, Beth.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Of course, if you don't get the stuff in,
It will get in. I have it sitting on my desk right now.
all right. Any additions or deletions from the posted agenda?
I have one.
Have
I'd
one?
like just to update on the Parks Manager research that we've been doing and tell you a little bit about that. Shouldn't take too long. And we probably could do that right after the memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, that'd be the perfect place to
Right
do
after
it,
that,
Bill.
yeah. Okay.
Update Parks Manager.
Parks Manager update.
And maybe talk about Brenda's idea at the same time in that area.
I have one too.
Yeah.
Forgetting about this thing,
Okay,
the request for a
Oh.
private sign,
right.
Watson Circle. Private road sign. That one? No,
Is that this?
no, it's.
Les Berg's,
He's putting that behind the box.
No, it's wasn't the brakes off.
Yeah.
and he's building some condominiums back there.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know where you want to put that on the agenda, or if you want to put it on the agenda.
Why don't we deal with it right now?
Okay.
If there's unless there's an objection.
No objection.
So he wants to call this Lotcy Circle, Lotcy.
Yep.
And it's a private road. I don't see any problem with it. He's doing this in order to comply with new regulations that have to do with the 911 system of numbering houses, right? And we have been warned as of today that the village of Woodstock, which opted out of that system, may not be able to going forward. Is that right, Tom?
May not be able to.
Opt out
Oh,
of the 911 system going forward.
in other words, what you're saying is the state may force re-addressing?
Yes,
I've heard that. I haven't heard that officially.
you haven't heard it officially.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm hoping that everyone who has heard that and lives in the village will not be happy with that and speak to our representatives. Because that's something that they're going to be deciding up in Montpelier. So you would not, the new address system, which is the one Butch really liked for the town, and we, um, it gives you a number based on how far you are from the end of whatever street is nearest. So anyway, he is going to be numbering in there under this new system. And it has to do with grant money, right?
I don't know if it does, but I'd be surprised if it didn't do grant money. I think just to put another address in there, he needs
There's no
a
ro-
sign.
There's no room for one thing, yeah.
Yeah, he needs a sign that says lots and circle private road.
This is the building behind Angkor Wat's Walk, the restaurant?
Yes,
That's where it's being built, right?
yes,
Yeah,
It's back up behind it.
yes.
yeah, they excavated into the
The hillside, yeah.
There's a foundation there right now. And that's it.
You know, I have no idea who pays for that kind of sign.
The owner.
The owner
of
does.
the property. Yeah, no cost to the town.
Yeah, okay. Do we need a motion to accept that?
I would think you do.
Okay,
You need one on each side. It's a circle, right?
yeah,
So you need
yeah,
two
it's a
signs.
picture there.
Probably.
Yeah, he would need one on each end. Okay, well, to move it along, I would move that we accept the name Lotsie Circle, private road, for this new private road that's going in off of Central Street. Actually, it's Pleasant Street there. In Woodstock. Not gonna say no. A second? Brenda, second. Any discussion? Everyone understand what this is? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Nazi Circle it is. Though Les could have been more creative with the name. Lot C. Where it comes from.
Hotsy.
Really?
Yeah,
Could have been Hotsy Totsy.
but he's spelling it Lotcy. Okay, moving along. We have our manager's report. Tom?
How would you like me to present this? I've given it to you in a written form. Do you want me to recite this, or do you have questions you can ask?
Oh, I'd like you to recite it because
Okay.
the folks who are here can't
That's
see
a good
this.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
for anybody watching.
Correct.
Okay, we'll start off by reporting that the process for developing the fiscal year 24 annual budget has been completed. And we are in communication with the finance committee, and we're going to meet with them and have met. We're going to meet again. We will present our process to them and the staff. We will start this July 14th, this Thursday. Paving update.
Wait a minute, wait. Good question. When you
Yep.
say you're going to start the budget process.
Yep.
You're actually going to start putting numbers in?
Yeah.
I thought that was in the fall.
Well, everybody wants to get started earlier, so it makes it a little more cumbersome, but it will drag on for some time. We will finish it in the fall,
Okay.
because we'll have the department head meetings weekly with the finance committee.
So you're starting with the department heads and so forth before you get to the boards.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? I bet that started well in advance.
Yes.
Fast.
Yeah, I just
Probably
thought-
not this early.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear.
Sure.
So the boards probably won't come in. until-
No,
Yeah.
you don't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Yeah, that will happen in the fall
Yes,
when the boards get.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Paving update, River Street is done. I think the sidewalk on Pleasant Street is finished from the looks of things.
It is,
It is.
at least on my part.
Yeah, good. And then Prospect is not done, but the initial part is done, and the final part the paving company has rescheduled a few times, and we're waiting for them to come in any day to finish it up. Some other highway updates. I don't know if the trustees have been involved in the storm drain relining that has been planned for a while at 10 Pleasant Street. That's complete.
Yep.
The rented roadside mower has arrived and mowing will begin. It has begun. I don't know exactly the schedule. That is what gets done when. So that is starting and needs to be in some places. Miscellaneous update, the interviews for the zoning administrator's assistant job has begun. Then a very interesting thing, the design for building improvements to create fossil fuel reductions has also begun. And this relates to the article, I think it was Article 23 at last town meeting for $660,000 to be applied to this project and potentially get more grants to add to this or at least reduce this amount to be spent. And that is being coordinated with Two Rivers Auto Preaching Regional Planning. Woodstock's a member of a consortium of, I don't know, 6 or 7 towns that pay into this. And there's a person on that staff that it's pretty much his job working with those towns. I think you've had presentations by Jeff as well. That's moving along. And it's an interesting thing. The company that they awarded this project to does the design with no financial commitment from the people that are doing the designs for the municipalities that do the designs for until the design is approved or if it is approved, and then we work out details and go from there. Which is kind of a common practice in that area. I've seen that happen. And just so everybody knows, you can see a new screen on the wall, which works really well for printed items, you know, like a document. They appear as a much clearer, crisper thing. That was donated by John Spector, and he's going to donate some other equipment to make our Zoom meetings a lot better, microphones and another projector. We just have to do a little wiring here in this room to accommodate that.
Thank you, John Spector.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
Does anyone have any questions for our municipal manager?
You said there's no cost, the second to last paragraph, to the town or village until and if the design's approved. So the design is coming when? Did you say?
oh, sometime in the fall.
In the fall. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up is financial report, which we all have copies of. Does anyone have questions about that?
So this is the final for the year, right? Because the fiscal year is over June 30th. And so these numbers are how we ended up. right?
Well,
Tom's-
yeah, there's
Tom's
still-
shaking his head.
There's still some expenses that aren't in there yet that apply to
Is
that.
it cash accounting or accrual? How does that work?
It's accrual, it's modified accrual.
So that's why.
So any work that was done fiscal year 22, we don't have an invoice for it yet. We have to pay it in fiscal year 22, and they come strictly in.
Right.
But unless we get a big surprise,
It's going to be pretty close.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
This should be.
Do we have, so there's currently, without what hasn't trickled in yet, we have a surplus of $34,671
Correct.
in the village budget. Do we have an idea of what these might add up to, these other expenses?
No.
We think they're covered by that?
Yes.
So we'll.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so it's very close, but it looks okay.
Yep.
Of course, we all know that unfortunately we had to put ARPA money in to make this work. Because of miscalculations of figures that we had relied on when we used money from the parking fund to pay for the new meters. So I wish I could feel great about having come in just with a surplus, but it wasn't the true reality. Anyone else have any questions on budget? I mean, not the budget, on the financial report.
I'm kind of curious, we typically see.
See all the other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You have to
not,
share.
we can't see, so yeah, maybe it just, the computer isn't showing us who else is.
Should I do that?
Yeah,
Because.
yeah, because if people if they're raising their hands, we won't know. The meeting will be over sooner.
And I know Zoe was going to join us for that portion of the meeting, and yeah, she's on there. Okay. Good. Yeah, there's
Zoe might be able to answer that.
about 6 people there.
Is Zoe on there?
Yeah, it's in the bottom.
So Zoe, I wonder if you know about how much money we still owe.
Okay, we have to get her unmuted somehow. Tom.
Hi, sorry. You're gonna be fairly close. I don't have any, I don't have an accurate idea, but just the same as what Tom said, we have 60 days to wait for those invoices, but I think you're gonna be very close to budget to actual.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good.
And truly, Sarah and I and Tyler have gone through things very thoroughly, so I don't anticipate any blitzes. So,
Great. It's nice to start off with a clean slate for
Yeah.
a new budget. Thank you, Zoe.
you're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for finance report? Anybody? No?
Revenues and revenues and expenses are exact match, 1,346,000, et cetera. I thought they were off by a little because the budget wasn't perfectly balanced. I also have records of it, and this may be an old report I have, but the figure doesn't match 1,384,000. Am I just talking in the wind here?
Yeah. I think
This must
so.
be old then.
Yes.
I've been working on this all year, so I've got the wrong. Actually, it shouldn't be because this was in the report, right? This is the actual report from last year. It has the full budget in it. So this is total revenues 1,384,000, and this says 1,346,000.
Ask Zoe, do you understand Bill's question?
I don't have it in front of me, but I would love if Bill, if you want to shoot me an email afterward, and that way I can research any discrepancies that you have, that would be fine.
Yeah, it's just to make clear what's in the annual report from last year. You can see it
Sure.
over here. It doesn't agree with the figures on your report here in terms of the total budget for both revenue and expenses. So it's also
Okay, I'll look at that. I'll have to see if it's special articles, if it was something that was voted for on the floor. I'll look into that.
possibly, yeah. Okay, it's not that big a deal. I should make sure mine's up. Thank you.
No, sure. Thank you. Just if you would shoot me an email, I'll be happy to clarify that.
You can do it right now.
All right, police chief's report. Chief Blish.
I'm gone last month, but I miss anything?
Oh,
Things are quiet.
All right. So Sergeant Swanson continues to recover. He's expected back in August, no exact date. Donko officially retired on June 25th. He'll stay part-time, but he can't come back until August 1st. Pension rules. So officers Jacob Holmes and Caleb McIntyre do an excellent job picking up vacant shifts to keep the meeting staff. Officer Neely came back up from Florida. He helped us out for 2 weeks, covered many shifts. Officer Patterson, we moved down to South Carolina. He's coming back up for 2 weeks till the end of the month to get us to August. And about that time, Officer Fraze should be signed off to move solo. So I'll be able to plug him in to his hopefully, 40 hours. Pretty big shifts, and then, of course, Officer Danell McIntyre, Landon Goodrich, and Lucott, they all have contributed stuff up to the plate, cover a lot of shifts, so we maintain our staff. We received several applicants for the 2 vacant full-time positions that we have, and hopefully I'll hold some interviews in the near future. Officers have conducted Governor's Highway Safety Patrol during the last 30 days. I met with some citizens at the senior center last week, gave an update about things going on with the department. And the village, town. Our building is in the final stages of the punch list. The driveway paving will begin Friday, and that should wrap up around Monday. Enforcement specialist Nora Giacomo, who she was our Saturday enforcement person, has stepped down from her job. However, we're looking to hire another local resident who's got to give Tom to get his blessing on this. I think she'll be a great fit. She's a Woodstock Village resident. And, she'll shadow Harold and Terry for a period of time until she gets up to speed, and she'll take over the Saturday spot. Also, the POM parking meter company, those are the single space meters. The rep came up to the village on Monday. He was able to fix some of the meters that have been down for a little bit. And we'll be ordering, we had held off until after July 1st to order some batteries that we need. So that'll help us out with those meters as well.
Are they running though?
Yeah, they're running, but we need, he brought replacement batteries, and we just got to get our backup replacement batteries. Meters. So the meters, I don't have the exact breakdown because I left it on my desk, but I do remember the general figures. So for June, we were about 12,700 and change for meters. Last year, we were in the $11,000 range. COVID was 2020, so in 2019, we were in the $9,000 range. So the revenues have gone back up to probably better than pre-COVID numbers. That's my report. I know we have another subject coming up down the line, so I'll move off.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that's right, that was on there. So there was I didn't know if that was a separate agenda item, but somebody had approached me who was interested in purchasing the old crank meters that we have.
Right.
Supposedly people who collect cars, they like to put them in their garage next to their cars. Yeah. In any case, because we had to put it out to bid, I couldn't just sell it to him directly. That's what that proposal is for. That example that I used in there is just an example.
How many is he interested in?
So as many as we could give him when I first talked to him. Now, I did, Harold did an inventory for me, and he came up with about 205. That will include the crank mechanism and the housings, which we don't use anymore. So it'd be great to get rid of those and make a little bit more.
That'd be great. And is he going to pay us somewhere around $20 per meter?
He or somebody else, whoever comes in highest on the RFP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So I
would just add that there's still money in the meters downstairs.
Oh, see, look, we'll even make even more money because we'll have to clean those meters up.
Okay, is Joe recovering? Maybe it's too personal a question to ask in the meeting, but he's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And he was conducting a meeting here the other day. I said, "You okay?" "I'm fine." I didn't know what the particulars were, none of my business, but it's to make sure he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He's doing well. Another injury not related to anything like that. So,
Okay.
but yeah, he'll be back.
It's private information. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to pry. I just wanted to know
Yeah.
if he's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So Chief, there's a former meter location where the post has been sawn off on Central Street near the new restaurant Sante, somewhere along there, heading towards Hopefully Good.
Okay.
And it's jagged and sticking up a little. we could get some kind of a cover over.
I'll reach out to Elijah. I'll see
Yeah.
if Highway can help us out.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think it's a little unsafe the way it is.
That's all I have.
And any other questions for Chief Blish? Yes,
I
Beth?
just wanted to say thank you to Robbie and to you folks. I hope that everyone did this sign up for the alert that came, that we talked about, you know, at the last meeting. But today, we got a phone call and email about the storms coming through. I'm assuming the same thing would happen if there's something else going on.
Yeah, that
And
was,
it worked really well.
We didn't put that out. That was unrelated. So if you've already signed up for the monitor, you got that.
No,
Yeah,
I signed up for your relook.
Yeah, because we advertised it.
yeah,
I just wanted to say.
Yeah.
thanks, because
and we're going to be discussing that
it worked well.
whole thing in a little bit. So stick around, Chief,
All right.
please.
You insist.
I thank you. All right, next up is a permit for food truck and alcohol vendor at the town hall from Pentangle. Alita, can you tell us a little about this? It's under your umbrella. Are you still there, Alita?
Might be on,
Yeah,
should be on mute.
You want to
Okay.
unmute? There you
Yes.
go. We can hear
Okay.
you now.
Okay, so this is a collaboration between, and we just did a test run between Beer Mountain, which is out of Ludlow, and Abracadabra, which obviously is in Woodstock, and they're expanding. They just took over the Riverbend property and building a roastery there. So they're kind of excited to have a collaboration they're calling Astral Projections. And we screened a movie last week and they did a kind of beer and wine thing. It was very calm, everybody behaved. So this is on August 13th, and I know Beth is probably on the call, and this is not to compete with Taste of Woodstock because it starts at 4. There'll be a DJ in the back and in the back lot, which we've never utilized for anything other than parking. But we're going to clean out some of the vegetation, they're going to put up some lights, tables that Ben Jervy is donating, and he owns some of the property across from the East End Park. There'll be beer, wine, and pizza, DJ from 4 to 6, and then 3 bands. Culminating with Bonnie Prince William, who's actually William. He's a Southern country guy that people really love. So, I mean, it's a new thing for us. We're basically it's basically a rental, and Pentangle makes money on it because they're utilizing our space, and it's diversifying our revenue stream. There'll be porta potties, there'll be security. I've notified Jill and Tony. I think it'll be fine, but it is a new thing for us to utilize the back lot.
So what do you mean by there will be security?
Well, one thing when I talked to Jill Amato, Blue Horse Inn, is they've had teenagers jumping into their pool. So, one thing would be there'd be a cordon, which is, what you do for alcohol, but also we will have someone there to make sure that people come in through the portico, get their bracelets, they can either go right into the theater or they go out on the side, which will be blocked off. Then they go down into the back lot. And we'll have people there saying, you don't leave. If you leave, you go back the way you came and into the theater. So it's not like you're going to go over to the Blue Horse property or to the Immense property on the other side.
Okay, and who's going to monitor eligibility to be on the alcohol side of? your
So the liquor license, which has already been submitted to Charlie, the town clerk, is Pizza Lupolo. And that's why we're doing bracelets. So there'll be an ID when they come into the theater. ID, they'll have to show their ID and then they get a bracelet, which is what we did last week. Bracelets that we've used for the house tour. And if they don't have a bracelet, they don't get served.
Okay. And what about the volume level of the DJ outside? Is that something that you are aware of?
Oh, yeah, we know the village decibel level, and it's only 2 hours. And actually, reason we did a test run in the foyer last week was the DJ is actually a real vinyl DJ. Like it's not loud. It's just pretty cool because they're using vinyl. And then the bands, of course, are within the town hall. So that is, and it will end it'll end at 10. So it's before the kind of the curfew of the village for sound.
But the sound outside ends at what time?
4 to 6.
At 6. Okay.
Yep.
All right, who has, questions for Alita?
Insurance.
Yes, yeah,
It's on here.
It's, insurance is already, it's already here. Well, personally, I think it sounds like a really interesting and new way to entertain people. What do you folks think?
I'm prejudiced.
All right, well, I'd entertain a motion.
I-
Brenda?
I second.
No, would you want to make a motion
I make a motion to accept
as presented?
as presented, yes.
Okay. Second? Second by Gabe. All right, any further discussion on this event? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions?
Yeah, I just take because I'm
Okay,
chairman of the
it's recused. All right, well, there's 3 ayes and no nays, therefore the motion carries. Alita, thank you. It sounds very exciting.
Oh, thank you. And come on down. Let's, I love that we can do multiple things in the village at once. We're not competing. I think we're collaborating.
Hey, Lita, before you go, isn't there a second astral projections presentation sometime scheduled, or am I wrong?
Nope, that's the second one. We did the first last week with They Live.
Indoors, right?
Yes, that was the film, but yeah, no, they would love to come back and do stuff on a monthly basis, but nothing is scheduled past this August 13th event.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alita.
Thank you.
You are permitted.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, let's move along. Old business. Memorandum of Understanding concerning the East End Park. So we've talked about this before, folks, and you all see basically a breakdown of the roles and responsibilities of this memorandum of understanding. And that is a little different from what eventually the village and town of Woodstock may be doing there. But this is something we'll be agreeing to for a year of the signing of this. The volunteers who've created that park want to turn this over to the municipalities eventually. And in the interim, we are going to agree on different roles and responsibilities of the different parties. So basically, the Woodstock Community Trust, which is led by the project team of the Friends of East End Park, will jointly develop with the village and town a strategic plan towards full municipal management under a professional parks superintendent, which Bill will address in a moment. And until an approved strategic plan is fully implemented, all parties to this memorandum agree to share responsibility for the maintenance and management of the park. What we're agreeing to is that the town will conduct regular mowing, but not the weed whacking, annual maintenance of the access drive down into the park, regular trash pickup, and general repair where needed. Of course, the town has to vote on this separately from this board. The village will incorporate lawn fertilization as well as annual tree work in our current budget. We will, and we will be drawing on funds that were not budgeted but exist in terms of public trust funds in order to accomplish what we would agree to if we sign this. We've gone on to agree that the village and town will remove public hazards such as fallen trees and repair infrastructure and vandalism in a timely manner. And in addition to our standard liability coverage, the Woodstock Community Trust will obtain certificates of liability insurance for all contractors working in the park that they hire. Each certificate of insurance will include as additional insured parties the Woodstock Community Trust, the Village of Woodstock, and the Town of Woodstock. Now, I have talked to some select board members, and I would like to make one amendment. And Mary, is Mary McVeigh on?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
I spoke to Ray Bourgeois, the vice chair of the select board today. He had a suggestion. And I said, Ray, we're ready to go ahead with this if the rest of the trustees agree. And, but I want to know if the select board is likely to, in your opinion, agree as written. And he wanted to add one sentence. So rather than go back and forth, I'm going to throw that sentence out now. And that sentence is that any future improvements or enhancements to the park during the time period covered by this memorandum of understanding must be approved by the trustees and select board. I don't know if you have any improvements or enhancements planned. And the reason he thought of that is that there may be, that it would add to future expenses to the municipalities if enhancements are made beyond what we are contemplating. So does that make sense to you?
Let me clarify, please. In his articulation of it, it has to be approved by both bodies?
Well, yes, you know, as the terms of agreement are down here, he has to sign this for the select board.
Understood. I would, the only reason I asked that is that previously, as you know, Jeff, for all of the other infrastructure developments, we have presented concepts and diagrams and so forth to the village only, since it was village property. So
Right.
this would be a change.
This would be a change because we are now asking the town to participate in the financial obligations there.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's appropriate. I would agree with him that any improvements or enhancements be approved by both boards.
Okay. So improvements or enhancements, what qualifies under that as a definition roughly?
No, nothing that nothing specific. If you
Okay.
come up with something and say you want to build something else that has to be maintained, that doesn't exist there right now,
Okay,
we would want you to come to the two boards and say, this is what we like to do. But we realized that we're turning this over to you eventually, and you would be maintaining it. So
okay.
we want your approval.
Well, I mean, yes, we do have plans. Some of them are on a minor scale and some of them would be more major. For example, on the minor scale, very recently, we have planted vines at the base of the pergola because the intent is to have them grow up across the top of the pergola and eventually provide shade. Now that's an improvement, enhancement, but that's not something that, to my mind, off the top of my head, would require approval by two boards. Am I correct in that?
I think you're correct in the circumstance you just described.
Okay. Something probably more major is that we do intend to have a form of recognition for the private parties and foundations who have financially made this park possible. And so we are working to create some kind of written recognition that will be visible at the park. The exact form of it is still in the works to be determined, but is that something that you would consider an enhancement that needs approval?
Yes, but for a different reason. We are developing a memorial policy.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
And it sounds to me like that would fall under that. In fact, Phil Newberg is making a presentation to in August to us regarding new policy of what we will put on public property in the village. So this is the trustees
Uh-huh.
talking about land, the village property. So what you're proposing would have to comply if we adopt something in the near future, would have to comply with that adoption. I don't, we haven't had his presentation yet. I don't
Right.
know exactly what it would be, but
Okay.
that's what it would fall under. In the case of what you're saying there, that would not fall under this sentence that I just read.
Okay. And then the final thing that I can envision to ask about as an example is that we have worked hard to plan for some improved access, mobility access, especially at the pergola, for people who are not easily able to get down to the amphitheater and maybe not even from the parking lot to the pergola. So we would like to create a smooth pathway and a smooth flooring, if you want to call it that, underneath the pergola, so that people who use whatever, a cane, a walker, a wheelchair, or just have general mobility issues would find it much more comfortable and accessible.
When are you planning to do that?
We are hoping to do that this season.
This season?
Yes.
Well, and that's something that would require maintenance. over time.
Well, certainly not more than the maintenance that is needed now, in the sense that this is going to be a stone underlayment. So we have a stone staircase, for example, right now. There's other stone elsewhere in the park. I don't foresee that it really would merit a whole lot of extra maintenance.
Okay, so we can only speak for our board.
Right,
and-
understood.
And say, actually, I don't think that what you just described would be a problem for us eventually
Uh-huh,
to maintain.
right.
I
I don't either.
Cannot speak for the select board.
Understood.
I don't, they may or may not have a problem with that. So we haven't decided who would even maintain that part yet, the village or them. So there's some things that aren't clear, but if that, we could prove what you just described tonight, potentially, but it would probably be better if you submitted a drawing.
Right, and we'll be happy to do that when we have a drawing, but we're not quite at that stage yet.
Okay, so why don't we go forward with this sentence that I've stated, and you can bring that to us, and we can approve it at that time, and hopefully so will the select board.
Okay,
Does that sound fair?
that sounds fair.
Okay.
Is that going to hold up, it's going to hold up our approving this whole process, right?
No, it's not going to hold up our approving the memorandum of understanding. No, it would not. If we add that sentence, which that any future improvements or enhancements to the park must be approved by the trustees and select
At that time.
at that time. Yes. So I would move that we accept this memorandum of understanding as written with the one addition of that sentence, that any future improvements or enhancements to the East End Park must be approved by the trustees and select board. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Gabe. Any further discussion? No. Okay. Well, all those in favor of this memorandum of understanding and that motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any, that's it, that's all four of us. Therefore, it passes. And I will sign that on behalf of the trustees. And then we will present that to Ray to bring to the select board. And they can have their discussion and he would sign it if they approve it as we, in the same form we did. So, yes, Tom.
Mary, could you revise that? I think you have the Word document, adding that sentence and email it to me so we can put it in the select board packet ahead of time.
Yes, I will do that.
All right, thank you very much.
That'd be great. Thank you, Mary. You
You're
got that, you got the wording, right, Mary?
I believe so.
Okay,
We
thank
can
you.
check it out via correspondence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, let's move along.
Talk about the park manager.
Oh, yes, we could do that now, because this ties in.
Okay.
And this is something Bill has been a proponent of for a while
Long time.
and does tie in.
Yeah, so basically, what we just heard is a discussion about how to pay for stuff at East End Park. About a year and a half ago, I did a report on all 7 parks, describe where they are, pictures of the location, description of who owns them and manages them and so forth like that. So it's a pretty thorough report, but it really doesn't do much until we find somebody to take care of the parks. So this is an example right now of a deliberation we're going through. How do we pay for stuff? How do we pay for stuff? There's no money. And look at the budget, like we're going to build money in the budget to take care of all this each time it comes up, right? So the answer is to find somebody to manage the park, and we have to find some way to pay the person who's going to manage the parks, right? So I put together privately a little unofficial task force of people, an ad hoc committee, if you want to call it that. We could develop it into an ad hoc committee now formally if you'd like. But I sort out advice from people who know a lot about the parks and how to fund them. That would be Randy Richardson, who is a outstanding citizen in the town who takes care of trails voluntarily. And he is a marketing director for Upper Valley Trails Alliance based in Norwich. And he knows a lot about trails and a lot of people. Added Gail Devine, who is the executive director of the rec center here in Woodstock. Ray Bourgeois, who is a citizen who sits on the select board. Elijah Lemieux, who is the Department of Public Works operator. And myself as the village trustees, 5 people on this ad hoc committee. So tonight, what I'm trying to do is tell people about it because we haven't told anybody about it. We've met twice about ways to try to fund the manager. Here's what the path we're going down if we can pursue it. There's lots of different grants that Gail and Randy know about, but the one that seems to be the most tenable would be a grant to obtain money to develop a position here in this town. And we can call it parks manager, parks warden, whatever we call it, but we have to pay for that person. And we're not likely to get money out of any of these budgets to create a new position with benefits and the whole thing anytime soon. So we discovered an organization that's in the state called Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative, VOREC, VOREC. And this collaborative will provides grants for all kinds of things, nonprofits, and specifically municipalities. And we think on our little ad hoc committee that we would be eligible to get money from this in order to create a position. Okay, is this far-fetched? Maybe. Their minimum grant reward is $50,000, and that might be enough to hire somebody locally to do that. I don't know what the figures are, and I don't know if that's going to be enough, but that would be a place to start. So the reason I want to bring this up now in July is that August, based on their prior year's application, was the letter of intent has to be sent to them, somebody doing the grant writing, probably not me because I'm not good at that, but that would be applied in August. And then applicants have to start, be approved in October, and applications due in November for 2023 money received. And then that would end up through a long series of events being granted in March. So ostensibly, if we got this grant and we could hire somebody who would be able to start before the next big season, which is in the summer, which is when most of the park management needs to be done, that would be ideal. Could it happen? Maybe not, but maybe it could. And I think the thinking of this task force is that once that person's set, are we going to be able to pay for the person the following year? Well, how are we going to do that? Get another grant? I don't know. But this person has always been in my mind, he or she would be able to create grants to fund things like East End Parks money that they need, and also a way to fund their own salary for following year. Might be pie in the sky, but we got to try somewhere because we're going to flutter around for the next couple of years with more requests from East End, who I love, dear Mary. I love you dearly, darling. Don't get the wrong idea, but they need help. And they did a great job and a lot of work for many years putting this thing up and running, but they need to be supported now, and they can't do it on their own. They need our help. And that's why we're having this discussion about funding to begin with tonight. So this is a path we might be able to take, and I just want to make it public to this trustee board. And I'd also like to present it to the select board when they meet with the same information. So that's a plan. Will it work? I don't know, but this VORAC seems to be a real attainable grant that we could get, and we might as well give it a try. But you all, as a governing body, have to accept the fact that, yeah, we could get this grant, and the intent is what to do with it is to go, we lost him. Is to go forward with a park manager position. That's what I want to get some feedback on. Yeah. Got to get him set up again.
Well, we'll see if I can do that.
Who's the magic fingers?
Oh, it's just a projector. It's still on,
Oh,
still on the computer.
anyway, that's my pitch.
Well,
Brenda has stuff to say about it.
so
Too. Right?
a suggestion for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
The EDC has just created a grant writer position.
Right, yeah, I thought about that too, actually. Right.
And they have offered that grant writer could be used by the municipality.
Right. Yeah, I'm aware of that, and I actually brought that up to them a while ago, but they haven't. I know that Patrick and other people are trying to create an opportunity to find that kind of grant writer person.
I think
but
they
it's hard to
may have
find.
just found one.
Oh, that's news to me. That's good to know.
I think it's
Yeah.
very, very recent.
Okay.
So that might be an avenue to pursue.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Something else to understand about the East End Park, it has a lot of complexities in terms of maintenance and some problems in terms of the irrigation system, which draws water from the Ottauquechee River and involves, there's a lot of sediment and the filters have to be changed constantly. And there's knotweed problems and other things. Peter Butler, who is a certified arborist and has been doing a lot of work for the Friends of the East End Park there, is willing to speak to both boards about the extent of what would be necessary to maintain it over time.
Right.
And so I think we're going to try to get him to speak to a joint meeting of the two boards at some point. So not so, because we know it's not coming out of our budgets current or one we're about to prepare, but down the road, we need to understand the significance of what's involved.
Right.
So I'm trying to arrange that.
Well, we need to find money to create a position that can find money, right?
Yeah,
And the
and
EDC
he-
grant writer can hopefully help us do the initial grant writing and maybe after that too. I mean, the idea is to write grants from the whole town. If I understand the EDC's position, they're creating this grant writer position, right? To help the town write grants. So, the way I've looked at this budget, I've only been on this trustee board for a year and a half or so, but we have trouble when it comes to budget time to get the numbers to line up. And it's hard to fit a whole nother salary in that budget line. So we're going to find somewhere to do it. And then we have to be confident after we create this position that there'll be enough money somewhere to continue that position. So this person will have to find ways to find money to pay for themselves. Does this make sense? Again, it may be pie in the sky, it may not work, but it's better than sitting around. And again, very much respect to East End Park because they've done a fantastic job, but they cost money, as Jeffrey just said. We don't know what the future cost is going to be. When I did this little survey of 7 parks, it's the one I had the most heartfelt feeling towards, but also the most worry because they're going to cost money. They've done a great job creating the park, and they can't get grants and stuff on their own forever. And Mary and her friends who put this all together can't stay in the position forever. They're not going to be around forever. So somebody has to manage that park and then all the other parks at the same time.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay, I'm going on enough. Sorry.
Absolutely. You know, the need is there. The idea is great. And I think you should pursue it.
Well,
And Brenda's idea of, what's the name of your idea?
It's called Adopt a Park.
Adopt a Park
got the park.
is something that working with a park manager
Sure.
would provide some manpower perhaps, again, on a
Right.
volunteer basis that would not require budget money.
Yeah,
So,
one of the original proposals was to make sure that we have a arsenal, what's the word I want? A whole lot of people that we could be on the volunteer list so that this person could say, okay, we need 10 people at the Ottaquechee River Trail, or we need 15 people pulling weeds at Teagle's Landing, or whatever the case is. And he or she could find that group and plug it into the calendar and make it work. So coordinating all that Adopt a Park idea is aligned with that, right?
okay. Well, thanks, Tom. All right, so moving along. New business. The first item is clarification for the need for public space usage in the village. And the reason that's on here is that we talk about permits for the green, and we just talked about the East End Park, and we have a separate set of rules for the East End Park and permitting for the East End Park. And I am wondering, and this is a question maybe for you, Tom, how we might organize, take a look at the village ordinance to make it more inclusive for all those areas where we're currently permitting. I mean, to some extent, what we're currently doing is permitting under the provision of variances that's in here, which kind of allows us to permit anything. But I think we should list the East End Park, you know, as well as sidewalks. We've run into a situation where there was a pop-up on the sidewalk on Elm Street, and the people who were running that pop-up just a couple of weeks ago were asked, you know, you need a permit for this. And they said, well, I got permission from the owner of the store I'm doing this in front of. And that's not a permit for use of the sidewalks. So that person, you know, understood and didn't come back after that day. But the public needs to know that you, on the sidewalks or on village property, permits are required for organized activities. And whether nonprofit or profit, that was for profit. And for profit currently is covered under variances. But that's all I wanted to say on that. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add, but I wanted to bring that to our attention. And I'm thinking that we might want to look into changing the ordinance to include the other elements, because right now it just says use of the village green for organized activities. And I think it's not inclusive enough until you get to variance. It kind of just says cover anything else.
Jeffrey, Easton Park has its own set of policies that were written September 2020. In
Yes.
front of me. So
Yes,
is that
I'm aware.
distinctly different from what's done on the green? Is that your concern?
It is.
Okay.
It is only, it is different, which is fine. It's just that it's not in an ordinance. It's just a variance, really.
Just a policy.
Yeah, we need to make the ordinance a little closer to the reality that we're all experiencing, is what I'm saying. I don't know how to go about that.
It seems like a revision to the existing ordinance, an amendment
Yeah,
to just delineate other areas that you just mentioned.
yeah.
East End Park, sidewalks, is there anything else? Maybe
Tribal Park.
Tribal Park also, because that's come up also as an area that in the past people have done whatever they want without any permit. And yet that may not be the best thing going forward. Very recently, there was a group that was tried to set up on the green. We were told they couldn't be on the green. They were told that without a permit, And so they went to Tribal Park instead. Yeah, and we need to enforce these, if we make it, make the ordinance a little more clear, we need the force to be on, the ordinance has to be clear. Absolutely. So I think we need to do some work on it. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then hopefully when Seton gets back, we get together and do a little work on that. And if nothing else on that, let's move along.
Will that cover demonstration?
It covers, it needs to, I don't know if it covers demonstrations.
Not on Tribute Park,
Not on Tribute Park because people say that.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm in favor of having for all the parks, but it seems that people will have demonstrations out there whenever they want for.
yeah,
no reason.
and that's another reason why I've been bringing this up. We need to make the ordinance more clear as to what's allowed, not allowed, under what circumstances.
Demonstrations are a touchy subject.
They are, they are.
And freedom of speech, if you're standing on the sidewalk with a sign,
Yeah,
I don't think you need a permit for that.
no, I don't know about that. That's something we need to get some opinions on. Maybe the VLCT could help us with that.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
But if it gets down to writing an ordinance, I think they'll ask us to give our own legal counsel, which is a good idea too.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Not trying to stop free speech. I'm just
You
thinking,
won't.
I know, and I can't, nor do I want to, but I do want permitting process to be clarified. All right, moving along, emergency communication discussion. There's a number of things that we want to talk about under here, Chief. And I also, at the last minute today, got an email from Roger Logan with something I'll share with you. It's about how to go about communicating urgent communications, some considerations. It's too long to read. But this is something that we want to develop a better emergency communications system than what happened before. And one thing that I don't understand, and I think you can explain, and Michelle can explain, is why it's so difficult for dispatch to get hooked into the Vermont alert system quickly when an emergency occurs, such as occurred.
Yeah, so let me just start by saying we did a couple of the after action reviews. State police were very, very happy with our response, fire department's response, and in particular, the dispatch personnel response. And so it went well. And from our perspective, there wasn't anything better we could have done, quite frankly. My talks with the officers on the ground, DSP commanders, fire department personnel, in all aspects, it was clear that the issue of public information wasn't on the police department's behalf, because information was put out by PD and the state police quickly, early on in the scene. And then there was a perimeter set. People weren't allowed to go in or out of the area of Slate Terrace and Lincoln Street. Those homes in that particular area were evacuated by the officers, or was told to shelter in place. And then at that point, I think some of the confusion and panic that may have happened in the village, because people went around that who weren't authorized by any law enforcement authority, particularly on-scene commanders, to tell people to lock down and shelter in place. So they were passing out erroneous information that didn't need to be passed out, because if the commanders at the scene had deemed that necessary, they would have arranged for those notifications to take place. And certainly the officers would have gone around like they did door to door at Lincoln Street and Slate Terrace to pass that information out. And the other thing is, from the dispatch point of view, they're not there at the scene. They don't know what's going on. They can't issue out of the clock a notification that they have no information about. That has to come from the on-scene command information. At that point in time, as you all know, the state police normally may have been myself or Sergeant Swanson or even Corporal Doctor because he was the command staff, but I wasn't there. And then Sergeant Swanson and Doctor were involved in the scene or incident, so they couldn't be there. So it fell to the state police to take over that responsibility. And bottom line is this, they didn't deem it necessary to put that out, so that's why that didn't go out. So I don't think that wasn't going to change. I think some folks were maybe hoping for play-by-play action with this alert system. That's just not how it happens. It's a very fluid situation. Things like this unfold quickly. But also, if there's nothing to be put out, if it's sort of a status quo situation, which occurred relatively quickly after the initial incident occurred, and there's just nothing to put out. In addition, well, I think the biggest takeaway was though from some of these after action reviews that we've had, and there's one more to be had, and that's going to happen once the Attorney General's office and the state's attorney that's been referred to, which is up in Grand Island. Once they sign off on everything, then we'll have a more in-depth review of the entire incident. But in any case, the biggest takeaway was the interoperability failure of our radio communications between fire and police and other law enforcement agencies. So that's sort of a long-term problem in that you can buy in the cars, the police, Woodstock can talk to Woodstock Fire. We have fire radio. You get outside of the car with your portable radio. We don't have that ability on these current portable radios. The fire department doesn't have the ability on their portable radios to talk to us. There are portable radios that they make that can do both now, but they're about $7,000 a unit, so it's relatively expensive. So that's something we can work on down the road, maybe some grant funding or something like that to replace those. But so that was my biggest takeaway was just the lack of interoperability for radio communications. Like I said, in terms of the notification, in this particular incident, there wasn't anything more to be done. That said, we pushed out the Vermont alert sign up notification. They said we could do. We'll also put it on the Vermont alert tab on the desktop in dispatch, so that in the future, if they can log into Vermont alert much quicker, and that may help if they have time. But I'll say that in the first hour of that incident, they fielded 150 phone calls. They were just completely swamped. And that was on top of hearing shots fired, officer down, and that dispatchers, you can imagine, she kept her professional composure, did a fantastic job, but she's dispatching our units, Hartford units, sheriff's units, state police units, fire department units, coordinating their response, coordinating where they are, having to relay messages because of the interoperability issue we had on top of all of that. So I don't think, things can always be better. We know that. But in this case, I don't think this is a particular instance to point at to say there's an issue with our alert system.
So I'm not offering any criticism of what went on in terms of how it was handled by the various forces involved. But I will say that having been located in the middle of the village and witnessing what went on amongst the general public that had nothing to do with what was up on the hill, there was a tremendous amount of confusion and panic, and that could have been alleviated if somehow they were alerted somehow. Now, I don't know if the Vermont alert system is one that can do that, but if that could have cut down on the number of phone calls Michelle got or anyone at dispatch got, because that was given a priority to say, this area is the only area of concern at this time, Vermont alert. And that might have prevented phone calls. Okay, doesn't involve us down here on Central Street, or it doesn't involve us elsewhere. People were panicked. And as you said, people who are not authorized were going around and telling people what to do. And so that's the area I think that there might be room for improvement. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but if the Vermont alert system is one more people are on and that was given some a priority, it might help alleviate that, or perhaps you have better ideas on that. But I think that, oh,
It comes down to a resource issue too. So for instance, we had the microburst come through the fields this afternoon, as everybody knows. The Vermont alert system had already put some stuff out in terms of what was going on, but there were also trees down, power lines down. We had to close down 106. But at the same time, again, the dispatcher is getting phone calls. Like the power lines down, the trees down. Is the power out for a reason? What's going on with the power? Plus fire department. Thank God Michelle was doing this afternoon to help the dispatcher. But nevertheless, the point is this: when you have that many things going on, to try to, and Vermont alert system is good, but it is not user friendly. So like I said, it's something that we'll work on in terms of putting it on the desktop, the icon on the desktop, so it can be maybe the dispatcher can click into it and it'll be set up. But once you get into the Vermont alert system and you want to put out an alert, first you have to figure out, you have to click the area that you want it to be sent to. You have to choose what your message is going to be. You have to choose, do you want a text, do you want an email, do you want it any number of different ways, and it's time consuming. And so, like I said, it's kind of a resource issue in terms of you've got one person working all of this radio traffic and telephone traffic. For them to have to do that, it's tough. So I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying it may not be feasible every single instance.
Yeah.
It's not to say it can't be used, because it can be, but it may or may not be possible in that given moment.
but I love your idea of having that something set up in advance to cut down on the time. Even if you just choose one way, just by phone, or just by text, whatever. For all you know, you would have gotten more phone calls today if the Vermont alert system hadn't worked. There might have been some people who said, oh, there's
We'll
that.
never know, I guess. But,
We'll never know.
to your point,
You don't know.
like I said,
I'm just saying that this is what the public is dealing with, because the panic was
I
Strong.
don't disagree, other than I'm just pointing out the reality. What happened.
yeah, no, I get it. So people have other things to add to this, and yeah. Please, Butch.
I was probably the first on the scene. Unfortunately.
Yes,
But for those of us who needed to know what was going on at a particular time, we knew. I can't say enough about the professionalism of the people that were in charge, the detectives, and interviewing started immediately and ran into 2 o'clock in the morning. But for those of us who needed to know in the neighborhood, we knew what was going on. And they kept us informed. They told us when we could come out of our homes and when we couldn't. I had policemen in my house from the time the incident started until it was over. We were allowed to handle. We were kept informed of times. I just want to go on record and say that those that needed to know knew. The outside people who didn't know thought they needed to know, but they weren't really, because panic was created by a few people who were spreading false information.
Yeah.
That's the area that you need to start with. Not how to get it out, but who's going to get it.
yeah, all right,
You're going to get the correct information.
that makes sense, Butch.
And even into the next day, detectives that were there interviewing neighborhood.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I think the public has heard that to a great extent. I'm talking outside of that. And the degree of panic was very strong. People yelling, locking doors and running, and, was it not necessary?
Visitors, not just local people, but we had visitors screaming in the visitor center and had no idea. They locked themselves in the ladies' room. We didn't know what to do.
We've been watching too much TV, you're not gonna fix this area to a point. But in any case, yeah, going forward, that's our plan, and I think that's probably our best course of attack. Because you're not going to be able to solve every problem, including disturbing people in the bathroom or, people on the street not knowing what's going on. But if we can get the word out as best we can, certainly I think Vermont is our best option. We'll do that as best we can.
That's great, Chief. I'm going to give you a copy of this from, I'll get you a copy also, just for you to look at. Roger Logan provided this that has some ideas on for urgent communications under certain circumstances.
How do you subscribe to the Vermont Alert, Robbie?
He's
Go
gonna
on,
stick.
do Vermont Alert, also on the Facebook page, I posted a link.
Yeah,
I just put something out on the listserv the other day.
yeah, you did.
But also, we had, during the 4th of July event, the fire department tried to hand out the pamphlets for the Vermont Alert.
Yeah.
They didn't get any pictures. Nobody was interested, but in any case, if you're interested, go on our Facebook page and Google Vermont Alert.
Thanks.
That's great. And that you're going to look into seeing ways to enhance your ability to contact Vermont Alert. It's comforting.
Yeah, that'd be, right, that would be a big part of it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Michelle. Okay, next up. Where is? Oh, yes, smoke-free Woodstock. This is in reference to a local citizen who was wondering about banning cigarette smoking in the village on sidewalks. And I've talked about this, and I've talked about it with our municipal manager, and the trustees are welcome to weigh in. Our feeling is it's not really enforceable. And, it's also fewer and fewer people are smoking compared to what we all remember. What I do notice, especially outside eating establishments, is that proprietors need to take more care in cleaning up cigarette butts that are on the sidewalk, and not necessarily even sweep them directly into the street. Sweep them up and put them in the garbage. That's something that we can do better at. But I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on this. I just wanted to, because it was brought up, wanted to address it. And I did discuss it. And in fact, Tom had an experience in Springfield where he was manager, where they tried to implement that and it didn't work out. And yeah, the enforcement side of it would just be too difficult. Any other thoughts
Yeah,
on
I
that?
seem to recall from my prior home state that there are rules about not being able to smoke within a certain distance of the door of a restaurant or establishment. Is that something that would be feasible in our town, or is that just ridiculous?
Ridiculous.
You have to be out more than 50 feet away from the door or something.
And you're just gonna bother somebody else's
Yeah, that's true. It's too
place of
close.
business.
Yeah.
In this
Yeah.
Village.
Okay. let's get that.
So, all right, let's move on. Next up is discussion on sidewalk repairs in the village. As you know, some sidewalk repairs have gone on Elm Street and on Pleasant Street and Prospect, I guess. There are other sidewalks that are in dire need of repair, especially with winter coming. Butch, thank you for coming. Michelle,
Yeah,
thanks for driving.
nice to see you.
In the winter, there are ice skating rinks at different points along the sidewalks because, and so much salt is being used to get rid of that problem. So we need to continue in repairing our sidewalks. And at this time, the Two Rivers Ottaquechee Planning Commission is preparing a report that we expect sometime in August, correct?
Right.
That we hope will give a report on the status of the sidewalks, as well as perhaps, I'm hoping, rank with the priorities of which ones are in the worst shape and which ones should be worked on first. So we look forward to that in August. We want to take care of this, and there's different ways that we can fund it coming up, but we're going to wait for that report from the Ottaquechee Two Rivers Planning Commission. Before we go forward, I will report that our village trust, the trustee of public funds, has given us a report on the different funds that are available to us. And one of them, she's recommending that in this fiscal year, we could apply funds from the Ethel Woods Sidewalk Fund and just the full balance. And it's a pittance for what needs to be done, but it would do a little stretch, I suppose. It's $51,000 and $51,429. So we could consider that when we get closer to being able to do some more sidewalks than are currently being done. But it's obvious they need work. I know in front of the elementary school, the sidewalk there going towards Vale Field, I witnessed two kids go on their way to Vale Field as part of a school thing. This winter, just feet went out, they went down, and it could be anybody. Fortunately, they were little kids and pretty elastic, so no damage was done. But that's just one stretch. There's many stretches that are very bad. Yes, Beth.
I don't want to interrupt, but in thinking about the sidewalks, is there also a plan to replace the trees in the sidewalk?
Which ones are you talking about?
Mostly on Central Street.
To
There's at least 3 or 4 trees that are no longer there.
Oh yeah, Don Wheeler has a plan to replace at least one that I'm aware of on Central Street, and I'm not sure about 2, but that's a good question for our tree warden because we budgeted for that.
I ask you.
He included that in his budget report to us, so you make a note to call Don and ask him about when he was planning to do that. Because yes,
Because EDC had authorized some money also, so if they all could be replaced, maybe he could work with that pot of money as well as whatever you have, and
yeah, well, yeah, so there's, and some of our public trust funds could possibly be used for that. We did use them to inoculate trees against the yes, the emerald ash borer, and that came from one of our funds. And a year from now, it will need to come from that again. It has to be done every 2 years, but we want to maintain those trees. So we're looking at that. So that is what we have on that. Let's move along. Let's see, what's next? So we'll be back about sidewalk repairs, but we're looking for that report, which will give us an idea of a much better idea of the extent of and the monies involved, hopefully. Discuss the public trust fund disbursements for fiscal year 2023. I've already stated the one for the Ethelwood Sidewalk Fund. The old fire station fund, the suggestion is a $2,000 disbursement. It's a $23,954 fund, and $2,500 of it was dispersed to help pay for village tree work. The Orley Whitcomb Fund, it's being suggested a $5,600 disbursement $7,000 of which was dispersed to pay for that Emerald Ash Borer work. And the suggested disbursement is $5,600. Some of that could go towards any trees that need replacing. The Frank McKenzie Fund is the smallest fund, and that's $3,755. And there was a $400 disbursement to help pay for the town fireworks contributed towards that. And suggestion is similar disbursement, perhaps $300. There's not much left in that fund. But we need to decide whether to take out disbursement money from the market now or wait until specific projects are identified. That's a gamble. It's hard to say what's going to happen. None of us have crystal balls about what's happening with the market. But I would say that I would be in favor of waiting at this point until we know what projects we need to spend the money on.
I agree.
You
Yeah, I
agree?
agree. Yeah.
You agree?
Agree.
You agree? There's agreement. Wonderful. Okay, I will let Jill know that we are in agreement on that. Okay, moving along. Year-end report from the Investment Advisory Group. That just came in this afternoon. That ties in with something I just mentioned. We all know the market has done very poorly in 2023. 2022, rather. So the fund total is currently, as of June 30th, is $1,745,310. That is a change of basically minus of 20% since December 31st, since the first of the year. Now, the good news is we're not doing worse than the various ways of measuring how everyone else is doing. Our equities are within 1% difference of the Standard & Poor 500 for 5 of the past 6 months. We outperformed the S&P for 1 month out of the past 6 months. Bonds have outperformed the Bloomberg Index Bond Fund, the Bloomberg Bond Index for 5 of the past 6 months. So that's something that's good. We remain with our fund allocated at 60% equities and 40% bonds. And that fund total that I read of $1,745,310 does include $113,459 allocated to the Vermont Loan Fund, Vermont Community Loan Fund. So that's where a little bit of money has been invested. So I don't think there's anything we can say other than, given the market conditions, the fund has performed as best as could be expected. Any questions? Okay, so that's my report on that. And other than that, we're down to other business. Is there any other business to be brought before us? Hearing none, I would move along to approval of minutes. And so for the minutes, Nikki, you're making it really tough to find any errors. I've got to tell you, I had to hunt with a fine-tooth comb to find one. And there's a particular species of trout that's called a char, spelled C-H-A-R. And the head of the select board is that species of trout in these minutes, as it is. So that's the only correction I could find, that it's Char Swanson could be changed to Chair Swanson.
Nice, yeah.
Or you could add an Arctic in front of the char.
You could add Arctic char, that's right. And that's a good way to do it. So I found no corrections other than that one, and I'm starting to get worried that I'm not going to find any going forward.
Losing your touch.
Well, I couldn't find any others. Does anyone else have any additions or corrections to those two sets of minutes?
We rely on you to find them, Jeffrey.
I'm
Yeah.
working on it. That's the only ones I found, the only one I found. Any other corrections to the minutes? I'd entertain a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
I entertain
Hold
a
on.
motion.
You make the motion.
I make the motion to accept the minutes.
Motion made
for
by
both.
Brenda, seconded by Gabe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. And now I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yay. I second. I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion
I
made,
second.
seconded by Gabe. And so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you and have a lovely evening. Meeting is adjourned.
Wow.
Exactly at 8 o'clock.
All right, are we?